Okay, ayan. So today's learning session will discuss the basics of headaches. So it's entitled Headaches 101. No? So we will learn about the different types of headaches. So ano nga ba ibig sabihin kung masakit yung dito sa may noo ko or dito sa may likod ko, no? We'll know what types of headaches they are and what causes them. No? At the end of it, we will learn how to manage and more importantly, how to prevent them both at home and at the office. Yeah. So today's webinar will run from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. To save on time for questions you may have, kindly use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will entertain comments and questions at the end of the lecture during the open forum. Ayan. Okay po. So before we begin, we acknowledge the presence of Attorney Joey Ochave. Sir Joey, may we invite you to say a few words to open the webinar if we're still in the call.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. And thank you everyone to the organizers of this webinar. Dr. Grace, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Joey. So without further ado, let us now proceed with our webinar on Headache 101. Our speaker for this session is Dr. Grace de Guzman. Dr. Grace is the therapeutic category head of CNS and Somatics of Medical Affairs. She completed her neurology and psychiatry combined residency training program at the University of Santo Tomas Hospital, Faculty of Medicine and Surgery. She is also an assistant professor of the FEU Dr. Nicanor Reyes Medical Foundation Medical Center Institute of Medicine. Dr. Grace is a fellow of the Philippine Neurological Association with special interest in neuropathic pain, Parkinson's disease, dementia, and mental health. And with that, let us all give a big welcome to Dr. Grace. Good morning, Dr. Grace.
Good morning, Josh. Let me share my slide. Good morning po, grupong Tamang Alaga. So for this morning, I will be sharing with you the basics on headaches. So here is the outline. I will first discuss pain-sensitive structures and their relationship to headache signs and symptoms, and an overview and the mechanisms of headache. And we have a new classification of headache disorders by the International Headache Society. And I'll also discuss red flag signs for to differentiate a primary from secondary headache, and as well as the characteristics and management. Okay, so first, what are the pain-sensitive structures in the head? So the brain itself is not sensitive. You can see in videos in YouTube that there have been brain surgeries while the patients are awake because the brain itself is not pain sensitive. However, the following are pain sensitive. So the skin, the scalp, the subcutaneous tissue or the fat tissue beneath the scalp, the muscles, extracranial arteries or the arteries outside the skull, the periosteum or the part of the bone, and structures of the eyes, ears, nasal cavities, and the paranasal sinuses, the dura, especially the part at the base of the brain. The dura is the outermost covering of the brain. And the arteries within the dural covering, as well as within the other coverings of the brain. We call them pia and arachnoid. And intracranial venous sinuses, or the parts of the bone and the dura wherein the venous bloods are flowing, and their tributaries, the counterpart of the branches, tributary. So headache is a pain in the head wherein the pain is above the eyes or the ears, but also can be felt behind the head or the nape or occipital area, or at the upper back or the upper neck. So headache disorders are among the most common neurological disorders. And about half of the adult population have had a headache at least once a year within the previous year or the last year. Prevalence of current headache disorder that is being symptomatic at least once in a year among adults is about 50%. Okay, these are the different mechanisms of headache. So first, headache may be due to traction, pulling, or displacement of blood vessels in the dural structures or the outermost covering of the brain. Dilation or dilatation, widening of the caliber of the arteries, either inside or outside the cranium or the skull. Infection or blockade of sinuses, and sustained contraction of muscles, such as the extraocular or around the eyes, the frontal, our forehead, temporal, our temples, and occipital muscles over the nape area. Now, this is the most recent classification of headache by the International Headache Society. So they classify the different types of headache according to etiology. So primary headaches are the following, and then secondary headaches or those headaches attributed to another cause are grouped together. So example are trauma or head injury, cranial, skull or cervical, neck, vascular disorder, as well as infection. Types of infections are meningitis or brain infection, and included also is the psychiatric disorder. And then the third would be painful lesions of the cranial nerves and other facial pains. Included here is the trigeminal neuralgia. So we will focus on the primary headache. Okay, so primary meaning it has no known underlying cause, while secondary is a result of another condition as described a while ago. And headache due to psychiatric disorders or diseases is also considered as secondary. Okay, so how do we approach a person with a headache? So we should remember this old cart. Old meaning take note of the onset. Is it sudden or acute, or it has been there for a long time, or chronic? Location, the patient or the person having headache should identify the location. You can ask him or her to point using one finger. So is it over the forehead, over the nape? Duration, does the headache last for few minutes, for an hour, or for a day? Then characteristics. So characteristics may be pulsating or throbbing. It can be pricking or stabbing. It can be constricting, iniipit, no? Or a combination. Then A stands for aggravating. What factors aggravate the headache or alleviating the headache? R, relieving factors. T, treatment, and S, severity. So old cart. Okay, these are the headache red flags, which I will further discuss or elaborate later on. So in evaluation of headache red flags would include a new headache among older individuals. So the cutoff is around 50, fifth decade. No? Then when the doctor performs neurologic examination, there are abnormalities or abnormal findings, including changes in the mental status, meaning patient is not fully conscious, not aware, not alert, but drowsy. Or papilledema is an objective finding performed by the doctor. The doctor uses an ophthalmoscope, a small handheld device to see the innermost part of the eye. Or a new change in the headache pattern or severity, it becomes progressive. A new headache in the setting of risk factors such as HIV, cancer, any cancer, or an immunocompromised state. Signs of systemic illness. So for example, there is fever, there are rashes, or findings of stiff neck or neck pain. If the headache is triggered or aggravated by coughing, exertion, or Valsalva maneuver. Valsalva maneuver is when you do a straining. So you increase the intra-abdominal pressure. And this increase in intra-abdominal pressure will be translated to increased intracranial pressure. Headache in pregnancy and postpartum period, or a first ever, or as what the patient described, the first worst headache of his life or her life. So further mnemonics, so A, B, C, D. So A, if it is acute, then B, chronic, non-progressive, C, chronic but progressive, or D, acute on top of a chronic non-progressive. And these are the what we call differentials, or the considerations that we should think of. So the primary headaches are the following. Migraine, take note of the pictures, then cluster headache, and tension headache. Then we will describe briefly regarding levels of severity or the severity of the pain or the headache. We usually use the visual analog scale, either a 100 millimeter line wherein the patient will put a mark. So example over here, 60 over 100, or the facial visual analog scale. So when we correlate the visual and the verbal scales, so 1 to 3 means mild pain. There is minimal impact on the ADLs. The individual is still able to continue the daily routine with minimal alteration. 4 to 6 is moderate. Some impact on the activities of daily living, but not to the point of incapacitation. And then 7 to 10 is considered as severe. It has major impact on the activities of daily living, so absent. So first, we describe migraine. So migraine is a primary headache disorder. It often begins in adolescence and mostly affects people between their 30s and 40s years of age. More common in women because of hormonal influences. And a little complicated diagram here over the right, just to explain the mechanism of migraine. So migraine is pulsating. I will describe further later. Because of the vascular component, as you would see, this is the big artery, and it also has a neural or a nerve component. As you would see, there is a nerve cell over here. So the headaches of the migraine attack are recurrent and lifelong. So once you have migraine, it's like asthma, you can just control the attack, the acute attack. Headaches are of moderate to severe intensity. and it is one-sided or what we call unilateral, either left side or right side. It is pulsating or throbbing because of the vascular component. It may be aggravated or triggered by physical activities, especially the strenuous physical exercises. The duration, it may last for few hours or may be prolonged to 1 day or even more. Nausea is the most characteristic associated symptom. Minority of migraineurs, we call them migraineurs, people with migraine. They have the aura, which are temporary or transient visual disturbances before the onset of the headache. So I placed here some pictures depicting the visual aura. So this one, like a zigzag. So it is a fortification spectrum, or this one, a scotoma, a bright light acting as some blind spot, no? Similar to a blind spot. It is a scintillating scotoma. And it is mobile. No? It may go from one side to the other side. This aura would herald the onset of the headache. So it can last for about few minutes to an hour, usually less than an hour. As to the frequency, it may vary, variable frequency. So either once a year or it may be as frequent as once every week. So in children, the attacks tend to be more of abdominal symptoms. That is the most prominent symptom among children. So here are some triggers for migraine. So food. So we tell the patients or the migraineurs avoid the letter C. Food starting with letter C. So cheese, chocolate, caffeine. However, some patients with migraine, caffeine actually relieves their migraine attack. So it may be taken or it may aggravate. And then mga processed food. As to medications, these are the medications that can trigger an attack, even decongestants. And then environmental, flashing light, bright light, even noise can trigger attacks. And of course, lifestyle. So take note, among females, menstrual period can trigger a migraine attack, even oversleeping. As management, we have the following goals. So we want to have preemptive treatment. We want to know what are the triggers and avoid them. For acute pain, acute headache attacks, we have the acute form of treatment and aborting it to prevent the progression. And the preventive treatment is to decrease the frequency and the intensity of headache attacks. To diagnose, we assess the disability up to the stratified care. So here are the drug categories for acute migraine treatment. The non-specific, we give any NSAIDs or combination, can be an NSAID with paracetamol, an opioid for severe, opioid analgesics for severe headaches, even antiemetics. At the ER, it's really very severe to the point of visiting the emergency department. The patient, the migraineur, can be given intravenous, so IV injection, corticosteroids. So this can be dexamethasone usually. Then specific, the triptan that target the serotonin receptors, the old generation ergotamine, and the newer CGRP antibodies. So these are small molecules similar to monoclonal antibodies, but not actually. And they're given via subcutaneous injection, either once every 2 weeks or once a month. So for preventive, we give these preventive medications for very frequent attacks. The patient or the individual can no longer distinguish the headache week from the non-headache week or schedule. So we give this as a form of prevention. So A, B, C, D. The most popular are the anti-epileptics or anticonvulsants. So these are the ones with clinical studies, good clinical studies. So Pyramid at 25 or 50 milligrams, then valproate and gabapentin. ACE inhibitors can also be given. Then B for beta blockers, included also are the Botox. C, calcium channel blockers. Included is the flunarizine, 5 milligrams. And D for antidepressants. The usual are the tricyclic antidepressants and the serotonin norepinephrine receptor uptake inhibitors, the venlafaxine. We also have non-pharmacologic management. So here at the nape area, the upper part, we can have a nerve block. So this is already invasive, a little invasive. Vagus nerve stimulation, encephaly, these are devices, handheld devices. Then transmagnetic stimulation also can be handheld or a bigger device, a biofeedback also, so referral to physiotherapy. Other included are Botox injection, acupuncture, and yoga and meditation. Now we go to tension type headache or the TTH. Among the different primary headaches, this is the most common. So it is described as a pressure or a band-like, as if you're wearing a headband, or tightness around the head, sometimes radiating or spreading to the neck. So there are different types, the episodic and the chronic. So episodic occurs less than 15 days per month, while the chronic occurs more than 15 days per month. So 15 days yung cut-off natin. So more common is the episodic type. So it may begin during the high school years, the teenage years. Not much difference among females and males. 3:2 ratio. So mechanism may be related to stress or musculoskeletal problems. So sometimes a problem in the TMJ or temporomandibular joint may lead to tension type headache also. Okay. For the treatment, very simple. The TTH, for acute drug treatment, we can give any analgesics, NSAIDs, or paracetamol, or combination of them. The level of recommendation means a level A means it is highly recommended, being supported by good clinical trials or excellent clinical trials. We should also take note of the possible adverse or side effects, gastrointestinal, especially the risk of bleeding, gastritis, or ulcers, gastric ulcers, while paracetamol is relatively safer compared to the NSAID. Okay, cluster headache is also a primary headache disorder, but this is uncommon, affecting less than 1 in 1,000 adults, with 6 to 9 to 1 female ratio. So a lot more common among males. So if you would remember, migraine is more common in females, while cluster headache is more common among males. So most of the patients are in their 20s or older, and the characteristic would be the frequent recurrence. It can be one attack or several times, as much as 50 times a day. It can be brief, like few seconds or few minutes, but extremely severe headache. Sometimes this is called the suicide headache because of the very severe pain quality. It is focused, as you would see here in the picture. It is one-sided around the eye with tearing and redness of that side of that eye, runny nose, or nasal congestion, blockage, sometimes with drooping of the eyelid, the same eye. So it can be episodic also, and it can be chronic. So first, the etiology of this cluster headache considered a type of trigeminal autonomic cephalalgia. So what is that? So trigeminal is a nerve innervating our face. Then autonomic is the part of the nerve supply that is involuntary. So it involves the part of the brain in charge of the autonomic nervous system, the involuntary part. This is called the hypothalamus. This one, the green one. That is also the center for sleep, the circadian rhythm, if you're familiar. It is also the center of temperature regulation. So the pathophysiology or the mechanism of this cluster headache is because of the involvement of the hypothalamus. So treatment, we avoid triggers. Some of the triggers are smoking, also alcohol consumption. For acute attack, we can give abortive treatment. So if patient goes to the emergency room, he can be given oxygen per nasal cannula. And then also triptans can also be effective. Preventive agents or preventive medications for very frequent attacks, we can give verapamil and CGRP. And then newer treatments include electrical stimulation, so non-pharmacologic. So this is just the table summarizing the different primary headaches regarding the sexual predilection, the onset. Cluster headache may even occur during sleep. Location. So take note, migraine is almost always unilateral, one-sided. Tension is bilateral. And cluster is around one eye. Characteristic of the pain, the frequency of attacks and the duration, as well as the associated symptoms. So by doing a detailed interview of the patient, the doctor, the physician would be able to somehow diagnose if the patient has a migraine, tension headache, or cluster headache. Okay. We have another, the SNOOP4. Take note, this is the continuation of the red flag sign or symptom. SNOOP4, so take note of S, presence of systemic signs and symptoms, and neurological signs and symptoms. Weakness, numbness, double vision, even the speech. O, the onset. Another O, if it occurs among older group, 50 is the cutoff. And P4, progression of an existing headache. A previous headache history. Is there a previous headache or none? Is it precipitated by Valsalva? So the patient can be asked to cough, or is it postural? The headache occurs from lying down to upright. So this SNOOP4 are red flag signs or may tell the physician that the headache may be a secondary one. So there is no test to diagnose primary headache. No biomarkers. The following are only done to rule out secondary causes. So example, if it's a new onset in a 55 or a 60-year-old individual, so we are thinking there might be something, space occupying or a mass lesion in the brain, a CT scan or MRI may be done, or if there's a history of fever and rash, or other systemic symptoms referable to a probable infection, can be a meningitis, So a lumbar puncture can be done to obtain the cerebrospinal fluid and be tested. I'll just discuss briefly chronic headache. So there is the term chronic headache or chronic daily headache, CDH. It is not a single entity but an umbrella term for all chronic headaches. So 15 days, again, the cutoff, more than 15 days per month for at least 3 months. So it has a long duration and it is not included as an official class or classification in the ICHD. So it is considered distressing for the patient and frustrating for the physician. So according to some studies, the chronic daily headache or chronic headache is usually due to migraine attack. Another gaining popularity now is MOH or medication overuse headache. And these are the old terms: rebound headache, drug-induced, medication misuse headache. It is also a common cause of the chronic headache. So again, 15 days, more than 15 days, at least 3 months. And the headaches develop or even worsen during medication overuse. So take note that the frequency of the medication or the duration depends upon the medication. So for the ergot, triptan, opioid, combination analgesics, 10 days. While for the simple analgesics, the over-the-counter, NSAIDs, and paracetamol, 15 days in cutoff. So these are just preventive measures to avoid certain foods that are known to trigger any headache, especially alcohol. And then the letter C food, chocolate, cheese, coffee. Then eat regular balanced meals, establish a sleep schedule, regular exercise. Need not to be very long, regular, 3 times a week, and good posture. Because the poor posture may put strain over the different muscles around the head and even the neck. And I have one slide for headaches in COVID. So this is a study published in last year. Now, there are 55 long-term effects associated with COVID-19. This is a very nice infographic picture. The most common included is headache, so 44%. 4 in 10 patients who had COVID would have a long-term headache. It is mostly described as migraine-like, unilateral, and throbbing with sensitivity to noise and light. However, it may clear after 2 to 3 months or may persist up to 6 months. Treatment is basically symptomatic or some anti-migraine medications may be given. The key takeaway, so a prevalent complaint, headache is a prevalent complaint wherein history or the interview that the doctor will do is very crucial. We need to classify the headache. Is it primary or secondary? And remember the red flag signs that may tell us that these are secondary headaches. Workup and the management will depend on the diagnosis. So it is very important to give the correct description of the headache. There are pharmacological and non-pharmacological treatments, and we should always remember that there are prophylactic or preventive treatments available, and even non-pharmacological treatment available. And these are the references. Thank you.
Ayan, okay. Thank you so much, Doc Grace. Sana hindi sumakit ulo natin while listening to Doc Grace's presentation. But again, thank you so much, Doc Grace, for the very, very comprehensive discussion. Actually, I personally learned a lot from your lecture, no? So now, Doc Grace, I'll ask you to turn on your camera and have it turned on. And now let's move on to the Q&A. So again, to our participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as much as we can in the remaining time we have. So sulitin na po natin ang oras natin with Doc Grace. Siguro, Doc Grace, I'll start the Q&A with, I have a personal question po, Doc Grace, no? Meron po akong pamangkin na 8 years old. So my question is, can children as young as her suffer from headaches? Kasi, Doctor, yung pamangkin ko po parang, yung 8-year-old, she's an 8-year-old, so syempre electronics, iPads, the screen time is a lot, no? So my question is, can they also suffer from headaches?
So first, Josh, as what I've mentioned, so the history or the characteristic of the headache is very important. So ano ba yung characteristic of the headache of your niece? Is it over the forehead, over the temples, one-sided only?
Okay po. Pero ngayon, she's not experiencing any headaches. I'm just worried na baka with her increased screen time, she might get headaches.
So the headache due to excessive viewing of gadgets or yung LED light, more commonly here, frontal, so tension type headache, the frontalis muscle, or sometimes band light, so more of tension type headache. But migraine can also occur in as young as 7 to 8 years old. So better to monitor the type of pain, the characteristic of headache, and then if she can tell you the severity using the facial, the drawings, the visual analog scale, better. And then she can have a diary, pwedeng electronic diary. So for every Monday, she has a headache, pala associated with Monday, the start of school, no?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Doc. Sige po, babantayan ko po siya. No? We have a question here. The question asks, is it healthy to experience migraine, especially prior to menstruation? And what drug is safe to take since they mostly experience monthly migraines? Ayan, Doc.
Okay, thank you for that question. So, I want to tell na she's lucky to have once a month migraine attack. And we term this as a catamenial form of migraine. So catamenial meaning occurring immediately before or during the menstrual period. It is not actually healthy, but it is a common occurrence. Menstruation is a trigger. And then what drug is safe? So any simple analgesics na hiyang, pwede na siya. So, example would be ibuprofen. Ibuprofen has good quality studies for headache, as low as 200 to as high as 800 milligrams per intake or per dose. Others, naproxen, mefenamic acid, even COX-2 inhibitors. So kung saan hiyang si patient, pwede yun. Basta take note of the possible adverse effects or side effects.
Okay po, Dr. Sige po. Hopefully nakatulong po sa inyo yun, no? Whoever asked that question. Here, we have a next question. Dr. Grace, I like this question. So here, how do we know if the headache is part of a much bigger problem in the head? Example ng tumor and stroke. So we discussed stroke in our last month's webinar, no? So Dr. Grace?
Yes, as discussed during the lecture, there are red flag signs. So tumors and strokes usually occur in the mature adult age group. So not in the 20s or in the 30s, very seldom. So if, I'll give an example, if a 60-year-old individual experienced the first headache of his life, first ever, or a new headache first time, so meron na tayong high suspicion. And then there are other associated symptoms. So for stroke, we know the usual presentation is one-sided weakness or numbness, nangangapal, slurred, or double vision, or I'm sure na-mention ni Dr. Tina yung fast, di ba? Yung face, arm, speech. And for the tumor, because it is a slowly growing mass inside the head, there are other symptoms referable to increasing intracranial pressure. So aside from headache, there's also vomiting, and patients may have double vision due to compression of the nerves moving the eyes outward. And the headache itself may occur or may awaken the patient at night. So yun, very, very crucial yung characteristic of the headache.
Ayan, okay po. So tama po bang sabihin, Doc Grace, na aside from headaches, there are also other symptoms that come as trigger points for much bigger things. Ayan,
Yes,
okay.
associated symptoms.
Sige po, Doc Grace. Let's move on to the next question. No? Here we have another question from another anonymous attendee. It reads, "Good morning, Doc. Whenever I have cluster headache, whether cluster or tension, what relieves me, aside from taking paracetamol, is placing ice on my eye or drink very cold drinks for brain freeze daw. Is that harmful or a bad thing to do, Doc?"
Cluster headache. So I suppose he or she has been diagnosed by a healthcare professional. So usually we know that a cold compress will constrict or make the blood vessel, the arteries, smaller. So if we put ice on a part of the body with a bruise, parang very early bruising, the arteries will constrict and lessen the swelling or the edema. So it can be helpful because the edema can cause the pain or the headache. Can also be helpful.
Okay. Sige, thank you, Dr. Ara. So it's helpful po, no? And to an extent, tama po ba? Pagkaidina.
Yes. But I think best pa din to consult a professional. Kasi we have for cluster headaches, but that is the most severe type of headache, and it can be chronic or lifelong. But there are pharmacological treatments available.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Doctora. Here we have one more question. Can a clogged nose due to chronic rhinosinusitis, tama ba yung pagkabasa ko na, Doc, with nasal polyps can cause headache?
Oh, yes. As mentioned, the paranasal sinuses, the sinuses that we have, the ethmoid, the frontal sinuses, so all, they are very pain sensitive. So if they are inflamed, they will give us not just headache, but facial pain. And I think individuals with nasal polyps, they are prone to sinusitis. They are prone to sinusitis. I also advise him or her to see an ENT specialist for further workup.
Okay po. Siguro we have a few minutes for a few questions na lang po. Now here I have one more question. Doc, earlier you mentioned about foods to avoid, including caffeine. Pero alam po natin ngayon sa office na parang hirap po kasi magtrabaho pag walang coffee. So is there a limit po on how many cups of coffee we can drink in a day before inducing headaches?
Caffeine, very controversial si caffeine. Some people, caffeine can trigger headache, but in some, caffeine can help. Diba? We have the paracetamol caffeine or caffeine with other simple analgesics. So caffeine can help relieve the headache kasi caffeine has pain relieving effect, and it can act synergistically with some simple analgesics. I attended a webinar last night. It's about sleep and question on caffeine. There was one question on caffeine. What is parang the ideal amount of caffeine in a day? 4 to 5 cups a day of coffee ang allowed.
Okay, so
I think yung 3 cups a day, pwede na.
Sige po, Doktora. Sige, we have one last question. It's actually my question, Doktora. No? Now that we're returning back to the office, Doktora, no? What should a GTA employee do kapag bigla siya nagkaroon ng headache inside their cubicle?
So for a first timer, so example si Josh. So first time nag-experience ng headache, monitor and observe your headache. If it is very severe, go to the clinic right away. Yeah, because it is first time, regardless of your age, kahit bata pa si Josh, go to the clinic. But if Josh has been having tension type headache, because of the traffic, lalong nag-trigger yung tension type headache, and nag-skip pa siya ng breakfast, so pagdating niya mga 8 to 9 a.m., may headache na siya. Yan. You can just go to the clinic to get your favorite na analgesic. So it can be as simple as paracetamol, simple na NSAID or COX-2 inhibitor.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc.
Take note pala, dehydration can also cause headache. So check your hydration status.
Okay.
Diba, parati tayong may tumbler.
Yes. Sige po. Thank you so much, Doktora. We have one last pahabol question po, Doc, no? Can too much Tylenol, which is prescribed for my migraine, cause liver failure?
Kasi Tylenol, ang base product of Tylenol is paracetamol. And we know that long-term or chronic paracetamol intake is harmful for the liver. Kasi siya yung metabolism niya, liver. So better take any paracetamol-containing pill on a PRN or as needed basis.
Doktora.
Yes po.
Doktora, kung Tylenol na tinitake mo, delikado yan. You should take Biogesic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you so much, Doktora. Thank you also, Sir Joey. No? And again, this ends na po our Q&A session. Again, thank you so much, Doc Grace, for actively participating in our Q&A. And before we go, let us hear some parting words from Doktora Nancy.
Morning! Si Attorney Joey talaga, di ba? Masama pag Tylenol, mas makakakos ng liver failure yan. Paracetamol din yun. Pero di ba, tama si boss. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Grace, for sharing your expertise, your time with the GTA group. And we also have Unilab employees joining us this morning. Your lecture was really very helpful in understanding a very common problem, not only among employees, but also among children, among our parents, among our relatives. And you discussed all the possible causes and highlighted the primary cause of headache or the primary type of a headache, and also the more important one, which is the secondary type of headache. So I hope pinakinggan natin si Dr. Grace kasi napaka-importante nun sa bawat isa sa atin na maintindihan ano ba itong nararamdaman kong sakit ng ulo. Ito ba ay dapat na ipagsawalang bahala lang, or you can delay seeking consultation. But Dr. Grace also mentioned about the red flags, especially if it's a first episode of a very severe headache. seek immediate consultation, no? Kasi sa tamang alaga, no, kasama yon sa ating ina-advocate, no, yung early consultation kung talagang kailangan, maliban pa dun sa sinasabi ni Dr. Grace kanina na yung tamang pagtulog, tamang pagkain, tamang pag-exercise, no, lahat talaga yan makakatulong para tayo lahat maging productive sa ating mga trabaho at sa ating araw-araw na buhay, especially now that we're still in the pandemic at very, very challenging pa rin. So sana, no, nag-enjoy kayo, Dr. Grace. I hope you also enjoyed this webinar with GTA and also our colleagues. And I hope meron din kayong mga kamag-anak na nag-tune in. But don't worry, this webinar is recorded and we will share the recording. Just request it, no? Pero palagi, isa din sa ina-advocate natin ay magpakonsulta sa doktor, no? Huwag niyong ipagwalang bahala yung nararamdaman nyo. Kailangan yung health-seeking behavior, no? Ina-advocate din natin yan. The proper health-seeking behavior is also very important in keeping ourselves healthy. So again, maraming salamat, Dr. Grace.
Just a short note lang. Everyone, no, we encourage everyone to share with your neighbors, with your family. Yung mga GTA medical webinars, open po ito to the public. So if you can invite them, we'll be happy to to share this to share it with them, no? Dr. Grace, thank you very much po ulit, and Dr. Nancy. And by the way, ngayon ko lang nalaman, Dr. Nancy, kanina ko pa inisip, sino ba ni Josh? Sino ka boses ni Josh at kamukha ni Josh pag naga-anchor? Alam ko na, si Rico Hizon. Di ba?
Oh, wow!
Diba?
Wow!
Hizon,
ANC!
Di ba? Very calm, very very articulate, no? Thank you very much, Josh, ha?
Thank you, Sir Joey.
Wow, Josh!
Salamat po.
Rico Hizon. Thank you again, everyone. Ingat po kayo. Until next month, no, we're preparing another exciting webinar for everyone. So, ingat po. Enjoy your long weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Josh, mag-picture tayo with Dr. Grace.
Sige po. Give me 1 second.
Ay, Dr. C, pa-on yung camera. Josh, Rico Hizon, ha?
Okay. Sige po. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. I am.
Thank you.
One more, Papa. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you po.
Thank you,
Thank you po,
everyone.
Doktora. Thank you, Dr.
Josh,
Thank you,
yung package
Josh.
Thank
para
you.
kay Dr. Grace.
Yes po. Sige po.
Thank you po.
you.